Everyone can appreciate a patriotic hero.
You and I are in this for the same reason. Make America a better place. America loves a winner.
Someone who goes above and beyond for a cause.
If we win this war, we can change the course of history. And this war, we can win.
A lone man on a mission to make his country proud.
But we are as committed as ever to winning this war.
You're doing great, Teddy. You're a hero.
We believe in you and what you're doing. Continue to make us proud, okay?
Somebody who wants to change the world for good.
Just wanted a seat at the table where the long arc of history is shaped.
This is not one of those stories.
I must speak to you tonight about a mounting danger in Central America that threatens the security of the United States.
It's a war, Teddy. We do what is required of us, which is exactly what I did that night at the house, and unfortunately what you are incapable of doing.
So you killed him.
He was a bad person. I had no choice.
When the CIA wanted to support a war in Central America, they used a very peculiar way to gain the funds to do so.
The administration has given the Contras at least $100 million in the last 5 years. And they can't even tell us how that money was spent.
And the whole thing centered around one man to carry out the mission, getting darker along the way.
Everybody is replaceable, so don't forget that.
Once the CIA got you in their crosshairs,
The further he went, the more you'd question how far he's willing to go.
and the only way to deal with bad guys is to be worse.
Any love that I had for you is completely gone.
Now you think you've lost everything? Just wait. You don't think we've all sacrificed? You don't think we've all lost people we care about?
When watching him, I really wanted to try and understand why. What's his true motivations? What allows him to fall deeper into darkness? How does he allow himself to ruin the lives of so many?
We're not in this for ourselves, Teddy. We are more than patriotic because we are willing to die, and even worse, to suffer and destroy for the cause. In the end, we expect pain and death, betrayal, even insanity.
And I finally figured out what's truly in the dark mind of Teddy McDonald.
Have you considered what running something this dangerous will do to you mentally?
I hope I haven't made a mistake with you.
You haven't.
The only good thing you ever gave me was our son, and now you're trying to kill him.
You don't really understand the pain and suffering your actions have caused.
In 1979, in Nicaragua, a small country in Central America, a war had started between the Sandinistas and the Contras. The US at this time were trying to prevent Soviet-supported communists spreading their influence, which is what the Sandinistas were trying to do. So they decided they would aid the Contras with arms and supplies.
The plan to aid rebels fighting the Nicaraguan government is in trouble in the House.
The administration has given the Contras at least $100 million in the last 5 years.
The White House would only allocate a certain amount of funding towards this covert war, as they wanted it to be under the radar and out of the public eye due to the immorality of it. So it was up to the CIA to generate more money to contribute, but their method of doing so was, let's just call it, unique for now.
I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time.
The morality was questionable, but the idea made sense. They needed to raise a lot of money fast, and a lot of it, so the drug game was an area they could exploit. But things took a dark turn when the main agent on the case couldn't keep his hands off the product.
We were celebrating, he overdid it.
In 1982, CIA agent Logan Miller, whilst partying with his Contra associate Alejandro Estevez, overdosed on cocaine, putting the mission in jeopardy, and that's where Teddy McDonald is introduced.
You really think you're the guy to step into this?
Yeah, I think I'm the perfect guy.
Now, Teddy is only 28 at this time, but had some field experience. He'd worked in Tel Aviv in 1978 and Tehran in 1980, and something had happened in Tehran that caused him to be pulled from the field and back into the office, sorting papers.
I could have prevented Tehran. I should have pulled my agent out. I knew he was in trouble and nobody would listen.
And in one man's curse being another man's blessing, Logan Miller's death allowed Teddy to get back in the game. Straight from birth, Teddy was met with expectations.
My dad named me after his uncle. He was this real guy's guy, Army Ranger, real life war hero. Expectations didn't really get any lower from there.
My father and brother were army men, instruments of policy, blunt objects. And I just wanted a seat at the table where the long arc of history is shaped.
His own dad, Robert McDonald, was a military officer in the Korean War. Teddy's brother Matt followed similar suit and became a pilot in the Vietnam War. Teddy deviated slightly and pursued the CIA, and for this reason or another, he never got along as well with his dad as his brother did.
With vinegar,
It would mean a lot to him.
give a what it would mean to him. I really don't, and I'm sorry. You know what he said to me when I told him I was recruited by the CIA? He said, "Oh, you mean those who sneak around alleys and stab you in the back?"
I think you're too hard on him. I know he was tough when we were kids, but at least he stuck around.
Yeah, I wish he hadn't.
He also lacked a maternal figure as their mother took off when they were young.
All I'm saying is if that asshole had left, maybe Mom would have stayed.
She just walked out on us. Didn't even leave a note. That's unforgivable, and you know that.
Despite not having much of a relationship with him, Teddy was desperate to prove something to his father. He'd been raised around the positive reinforcement of patriotism and felt inclined to emulate that achievement.
My dad took me to the White House where he was being honored for his service, and we had lunch, and I met Kennedy, and it was the proudest moment of his whole life.
So at the bottom of it all, he just wants to achieve something of significance. It's the internal validation he's searching for that can make him say, "I did something to change America for the better."
Give me a year, or 2 years maybe, just long enough for us to give the Nicaraguan people their democracy back.
Teddy's assigned Contra partner, Alejandro Estevez, was someone he found suspicious straight from the offset. He originally tells Teddy that when Logan OD'd, it was just the two of them at the house. But when Teddy is tasked with examining the house, he finds hints of evidence that they weren't alone. Despite being wary of Alejandro, he's forced to work with him to support the Contras. But then, things change once a girl starts looking for her sister. Victoria Grelli was searching for her missing sister Kristen, so when Alejandro saw these posters, he could no longer keep on lying to Teddy.
What? You know her?
Yes. She's one of the girls I killed.
It turns out that when Logan OD'd, there were also 3 girls present, and when they tried to call an ambulance, Alejandro killed all 3 to prevent the operation being put in jeopardy. Teddy, despite being taken aback by this revelation, has to also use damage control to prevent Victoria finding out anything that relates back to them, so he has to manipulate her to steer her off track.
I just need to talk to you. I'm trying to find my friend. She's a missing person. Her name is Jess Avon.
Did you say that your friend's name was Jess Avon?
Yeah. Why, you know her?
Finding Kristen can mean finding Jess.
Right. Can't keep doing this for much longer. At a certain point, I just have to accept that she's gone. Yeah.
Hey, you've done more than anybody else would have.
No, I don't know if that's true, but thank you.
From what I've watched and read up on about the CIA, is that they're aware a huge majority of people are trapped in their own perception, opposed to looking at perspectives and looking outside your own field of view. And if you understand this like the CIA teach, it becomes a lot easier to manipulate, and Teddy, whether through the CIA or elsewhere, had become a master at manipulation. He easily convinces a desperate woman that he is also in search of a friend of her missing sister, and not only does she believe him and follow him on the journey, but calls him
The one bright spot in all of this.
meaning he actually gives her hope, whilst knowing full well that her sister is dead. But the luck only runs for so long. A photographer had taken a picture of the victim Kristen partying with Alejandro in clear view, and once Alejandro learns of this, he takes things into his own hands.
Or I take care of the girl and nothing changes.
If she goes missing, especially now, after finding this, that's gonna look terrible.
They'll think she ran away just like her sister.
No, it is too big of a risk.
Get out of here, Teddy.
No, I can't do that.
Of course you can. It's the easiest thing in the world. Just turn around, walk out, close the door behind you.
Teddy, despite manipulating Victoria, had actually started to show some signs of sympathy for her along the journey, and now he had to see her murdered in a bathtub, with his own partner in crime sawing her body to pieces against Teddy's word. And after realizing his partner lies, deceives, and most importantly murders at will, Teddy ensures things go no further. Being a CIA agent on previous missions, Teddy had likely seen death around him, and he's definitely trained to kill, but actually killing someone, we have no evidence of. Following killing Alejandro and burying his body along with Victoria's in some wasteland, it seems to take a toll on Teddy.
James, I don't think I'm the guy for this.
He was forced into a tough situation, but in his mind, he used justification to tell himself that murder was the right decision for the cause. Justification will be a common tactic Teddy uses along this story, because in his patriotic mind, killing 1 or 2 people to save the thousands in Nicaragua and to then make a large amount of Americans proud for his efforts sounds like a fair bargain. His CIA contact James knows Teddy's desires and craving for validation and to know he's making people proud. So despite Teddy thinking about quitting, he gives him that push.
The director's very proud of you. He's extremely pleased. So is the president.
You're full of shit.
He asked us to pass on his appreciation to the responsible parties.
Now, this is what's called positive reinforcement. You know when you tell a dog to sit, then you give it a treat to encourage it to listen to what you say, or when you give a child a sweet treat for good behavior? This is positively reinforcing a behavior to be repeated. Now, James doesn't know all that's entailed in recent events, just that the mission is going fairly well. But by giving Teddy this huge praise, especially from the president, is going to teach Teddy that bad deeds may need to be done in support of the cause. Teddy decided to stay, and he now needed to build up his assets for the operation. With Alejandro in the ground, Teddy needed a new pilot and chose to recruit his brother Matthew, who, as mentioned, was a pilot in the Vietnam War.
Look, all that I need is a stopgap. I just need someone reliable who can fly the loads till I find a permanent replacement. That's it.
How long?
A month. 2 months tops.
He also needed people to get his cocaine from, which was the Colombian brothers Diego and Danilo.
Well, you have to provide me with absolutely pure cocaine at prices that's gonna make your balls hurt.
And his main buyers were Lucia Villanueva and Gustavo Zapata and Avi Drexler. However, a few months after reconnecting, Avi was arrested, putting Teddy a buyer short. However, when going through the case files and looking at who was there during the arrest, he sees Leon Simmons was also arrested, which connects him to another upcoming drug kingpin, Franklin Saint.
The problem is, we're about to import 50 keys of Colombian white. I have no one to buy it.
So we need to find a drug dealer.
But instead of just a normal introduction, Teddy takes a more extreme approach.
Sorry about this, kid.
I've got a ton of cash. I've got a lot of money. It could all be yours.
That's not worth it to me.
Come on, Franklin. Think about it.
I'm gonna shoot it. I don't know where you were.
It is brave. Who am I, Franklin? Who am I?
You're the connect. You're the plug.
He gets Franklin to connect the dots and in some way introduces himself as the Connect. But all these theatrics, the T-boning of his car, being held hostage in a hot basement, being held at gunpoint, these are all done for a psychological purpose, so that Franklin fears Teddy and he sees him as a man of power and violence, someone who can't be taken advantage of. And these are the first signs of Teddy stepping into his darker side. When leaving the basement, he introduces himself as
Reed Thompson.
Reed Thompson.
I'm Reed Thompson. It's nice to meet you, Miss Villanueva.
I'm Victoria, by the way.
Reed Thompson.
So you're not worried at all?
Worried about what?
About that guy, Avi, deciding to roll on you?
Not really. I mean, even if he did, they'd just be chasing Reed Thompson.
Who's that?
Exactly.
Oh, so do I get an alias too?
Of course, operating as an agent, Teddy needs an alias and went with Reed Thompson. But it was more than just a way to maintain privacy. When Teddy becomes Reed Thompson, he changes his personality also.
Are you gonna act like an asshole and be difficult to deal with?
Well, no, I mean, I hadn't planned on it.
Who the f*** are you, man?
Doesn't matter who I am. Only matters who I represent.
And who's that?
The United States government. We'll be in contact then. It is nice to meet you.
It's the same Teddy but with more confidence and arrogance. And in the case of holding Franklin hostage, more ruthless. When he was Teddy with Alejandro, he wasn't as assertive and therefore Alejandro ignored his instructions. So Reed Thompson is meant to ensure things like that are less likely to happen. And what eventually becomes a problem is him separating his Reed and Teddy personas and putting so much into the cause that he becomes one. A good place to see his contrasting personality is when you compare his relationship with his wife Julia, who is also in the CIA, and his son Paul.
Hi.
Yes, look at
this. Hi. Wow.
Hi.
I love you. Now go sleep.
Although they bring out a more soft and loving side of Teddy, this relationship with the two of them is something that starts to become questionable the further Teddy gets into the mission.
Have you considered what running something this dangerous will do to you? Mentally.
And he tries to make promises he doesn't know if he's capable of fulfilling.
Or if I can put some distance between myself and the op.
Can you, Teddy McDonald, are you capable of doing that?
Yes. Yes, if it means being here with you, yes.
And despite saying this, Teddy starts ignoring her calls, stops seeing his son, and decides to put his career first as he can't balance both. Teddy was actually willing to make whatever sacrifices necessary for the mission. Teddy was doing everything necessary to raise these funds, especially since
Congress isn't going to approve any of the funds.
So that's it. There's no ancillary support. I mean, are there other options on the table?
Besides you? No. So now the question that I have to ask is, can you handle this?
Yes, sir.
I am very glad to hear you say that.
with no other financial aid, it was up to Teddy to contribute every single penny to funding the war in Nicaragua. Franklin Saint had started expanding, selling rock cocaine, which was great news for Teddy, regardless of how destructive it was to the poor communities. Harvey was free from prison, and he and Teddy had decided to partner up for a different venture.
What do you need?
Handguns, assault rifles, submachines, all you can get in bulk.
I can get an awful lot.
And he also maintained a good relationship with his other Contra associate, Elena.
Look, we are as committed as ever to winning this war. To support, it's not going anywhere. You keep telling me what you need, I'm gonna keep getting it for you.
Elena was the widowed wife of Alejandro, and her people had been under attack multiple times. It's only the weapons and the money that Teddy brings in that can save her and her people. Her life is in Teddy's hands, and Teddy knows this, which might help make sense of Teddy's choices. Everything needs to run how he wants it to, which is why it takes Franklin to bank his money somewhere that Teddy is familiar with, before admitting to Franklin his apparent control issues.
I have what some people might call control issues, but the simple truth is that I can't do everything alone. So I have to empower the people that I choose to work with. It's not just about being in charge, it's about deciding how you want to be in charge. But what you have to decide is just how big you want your business to become, and how much control you are willing to cede to get it there.
This is another manipulation tactic Teddy is using here. Manipulators can sometimes use truth to mask a lie. By being vulnerable with Franklin about an issue he has, Franklin is more inclined to believe the words coming out of his mouth. And this is how Teddy gets Franklin to invest his money into a Panamanian bank. In doing so, Teddy knows where Franklin keeps his money, and he's connected to the people at the bank. So at any point he actually needs to take control, he has the power to do so. But there was one moment that would cause a butterfly effect and eventually change things for Teddy forever. The DEA, or Drug Enforcement Administration, had been hunting Lucia and Gustavo, who, if you remember, were the buyers of Teddy's product, and in doing so, had linked Teddy and his brother Matt into their operation. Teddy then realized that they were watching his office and therefore had to stay out of it until he could get the heat to die down. However, his money was in the office, which meant he was unable to pay Harvey for his arms and unable to pay Diego and Danilo for the coke. So as a, let's say, precaution, Danilo and Diego waited at Teddy and Matt's plane, suspecting they were fleeing, and told Teddy,
You can go. You can stay.
No.
Yes. Yes. Hey, guys, have to fly him. He can fly commercial. Once you are ready to resume our pickups, Matt goes free. Until then, he's ours.
But they don't just take Matt hostage, they force cocaine into his system over and over again to someone who doesn't do cocaine and has no tolerance to it, until Teddy resumes the payment. Teddy does make the payment, but only once the damage is done. A bit of time goes by and Matt starts to have some heart problems, and then he has a heart attack. Teddy, who brought him into this mission, realizes it's no longer safe and sends Matt back to their dad to stay and recover. The DEA agent expecting Teddy was a woman named Lorena, and using his CIA connections, Teddy managed to get their investigation pulled, whilst giving up Diego and Danilo to be arrested. But instead of letting Lorena come after him, Teddy made her join him.
But you and I are in this for the same reason. Make America a better place. Make America a safer place.
So they work together, and she even helps him get Franklin Saint off a murder charge, helping him continue his operation. But what Teddy didn't know was that Gustavo and Lorena had bad blood from the past, and the moment Gustavo saw her, he made sure things went no further.
Oh, I'm your contact man. Get used to it.
In the end, she would have turned on us.
Teddy sees the dead body of someone he'd brought into this mission, making him in some way responsible for her death. However, to Gustavo, Teddy is Reed Thompson, this character who is slightly ruthless and arrogant, and therefore getting emotional about another dead body like he did with Alejandro would have been out of character. So he sucks it up, puts it down to unfortunate circumstances, and along with Gustavo, melts Lorena's body.
Water and lye dissolved at 300 degrees Fahrenheit creates a solution that will dissolve a human body in just under 3 hours.
Teddy found a new Colombian connect, Rigo Vasco, and the CIA placed Julia onto the mission with Teddy, essentially to watch over him and assist where need be. And in need of a new airstrip, they headed to Costa Rica to speak to the contact there, named Bobby Kim, the leader of a Contra camp. Now, this part of the story and a character like this is usually something I would leave out due to the lack of relevancy, so I'm not going to explain what went down there, but when speaking to Bobby in the morning, Teddy might have not been listening enough, because what Bobby does here is foreshadow Teddy's whole career.
You and Julia want different things.
What does that mean?
We, you and I, we're not in this for ourselves, Teddy. We are more than patriotic because we are willing to die, and even worse, to suffer and destroy for the cause. In the end, we expect pain and death, betrayal, even insanity.
Just keep these words in mind as things go forward. But when they return to the US, Rigo breaks some news to Teddy.
The only link between me and the Villanueva family, it's you, motherfucker. So tell me, Reed Thompson, why the f is the DIA coming after me?
So when Teddy steps outside, he quickly puts all the dots together. Franklin, Harvey, and Rigo all had their operations jeopardized. And this all only happened once one person joined the operation.
You blew up my whole operation. You outed every last one of my assets. Have you lost your mind?
I could ask you the same thing.
You're a traitor. You're a liar. Any love that I had for you is completely gone. I am gonna salvage this op, and after I do, I'm gonna make sure that you spend the rest of your meaningless career in a basement office alone and so miserable.
Julia's mess up had led to one of Harvey's men dying, and Franklin having to kill a police officer who stole some important files from his safe house. And now it was all for Teddy to fix. Again, using the truth to cover a lie tactic, Teddy uses the situation to empathize with Franklin.
I understand what you're going through.
You understand exactly zero of what the f I'm going through, Reed.
You got blood on your hands. You have innocent blood on your hands, even. You're responsible for the lives of everybody you love. You're worried all the time. And you're afraid. What if I made a grave miscalculation? And inside of all that, you're completely, utterly alone.
On the surface, it looks like Teddy genuinely feels for Franklin here and is trying to build some sort of connection. But Teddy will always see Franklin as simply an asset, an important cog in the machine of serving the CIA. And by keeping him happy and making him feel like they're companions, Franklin won't ever leave, even after figuring out who Teddy really serves.
CIA wants me to keep flowing money in, Reed. But James Smith, Thomas Parker, whatever your name is.
Teddy and Gustavo needed to use the Villanueva family roots to get the coke across the border as he'd previously done, but it becomes complicated when there was a change in police chief in Mexico. Essentially, the previous chief was charging them $5,000 a week to get the Tijuana feds to turn a blind eye when they were moving their cargo, but the new chief, Oscar Fuentes, wanted a slight price increase.
I'm thinking $100,000 a week sounds fair to me.
100,000. That's highway robbery. Might be able to get 50,000 approved by the men I answer to, but you're gonna have to give me a few days to get the green light.
Sure.
So the meeting ends in what seems like an agreement on $50K a week, but the next day, something tragic happens. Fuentes had stabbed and killed Gustavo's brother from childhood, Hanan, and Hanan's wife, Nuvia, before painting $100K on the floor with their blood to send a message to Gustavo and Teddy that his demands were clear. Teddy was becoming accustomed to seeing these dead bodies in situations relating to him and was definitely becoming desensitized, looking less and less shocked each time when we compare Alejandro to Lorena to now Hanan and Nuvia. In retaliation, Gustavo and Teddy suit up in a plan to get revenge. Whilst Fuentes and his men are out of town in his hacienda, they manage to track them down, and Teddy, being a trained marksman, kills all of his men, only leaving a fleeing Fuentes to Gustavo, who strangles him to death. Taking out these men, at least 7 in total, proves how comfortable Teddy is with killing, and again, what he's willing to do to get this operation done right. But just as he got one obstacle out of the way, things got worse for Teddy. Remember the situation with Matt and the Colombians, leading to the heart problems, where they got so bad that Matt's body could no longer take it.
Theodore, this is your father.
Sir?
Calling to tell you your brother's dead.
What?
Matthew's dead. It was a heart attack. Not that you couldn't have guessed that. This is your fault. It should have been you. I don't expect we'll need to speak again.
A heartbreaking call with salt added to the wound by his father. This moment would leave Teddy broken. Matt was only a part of this because Teddy needed him to be, and in a prolonged manner, it got him killed. On top of this, Franklin starts missing drops, and Avi's weapons get delayed, all causing a disadvantage to the Contras. But Avi's weapons weren't just delayed, but the 15 mil that Teddy paid for them had somehow disappeared, and he had to fly out to Panama to figure out why.
Our security forensic team tracked the transfers, discovered it was one of our employees. Full accounts around the world. That's an internal matter.
Well, no, it's my money.
Where are you going? Where are you going? What the? Hey, what's your problem?
My problem is that is an unsatisfactory answer.
They resolve the issue and Teddy gets his money back, but he's not satisfied. He uses all of his possible intel to find the employee responsible. Remember, Teddy just lost his brother. He's reckless now.
Listen, don't do what I think you're going to do.
It's gonna be all right.
Listen to me. Hey.
Who the f are you?
No, I don't know nothing. I swear.
Yes, Teddy held this man hostage and tortured him for answers, but in his mind, every day those shipments had a delay. His people in Nicaragua were dying and getting pushed back, and when he traveled out there to see the damage, he sees an image he will never get out of his mind.
Necesito hablar con Elena, ustedes. Era mi contacto.
Si estaba supuesto ayudarnos, esto es tu culpa.
Because of this mess up, this slight delay and therefore lack of support, Elena had been killed, and Teddy couldn't even hold back his tears for this one. And the worst part is, things still get worse for Teddy.
Things in Nicaragua are a lot worse than we thought. Later, we got a bigger problem.
The source of all that cocaine is Reed Thompson of the CIA, who was using the proceeds to fund an illegal war in Nicaragua.
CIA knows this is true, that they're exposed. If they don't formally acknowledge these accusations and announce an internal investigation, I will be back on this show and airing his real name for the world to hear.
Irene Abe, a determined journalist, finds out everything she can about Teddy bringing in coke to the US, which led to the crack epidemic at that time. But worst of all, her intel is from Franklin Saint's dad, who knows all about the operation. Of course, the CIA wanted to keep this as under wraps as possible, and this information getting out could cost the Contras the war. Because of the noise made, it cost Teddy his job. So this becomes more than damage control for Teddy right now. This becomes straight up revenge. First, it starts with the manipulation.
Did he toss me aside?
I want it all from the beginning.
I think I'm gonna need a drink first. You want another one?
Whiskey, neat.
Then at some point, Teddy drugged Irene's drink and she falls asleep at the wheel. And after the crash doesn't kill her, he finishes the job. And it wasn't just her he needed to kill, because Alton was taking her role in exposing Teddy.
Irene had to prove, brother. That's why they killed her. And I'm about to drop one on you. He goes by the alias Reed Thompson. I even know his real name, and I got pictures, and I'm about to put that out in the public so the world can see.
And then in good old Western fashion, they have a standoff, where we get an insight into Teddy's mind during the scene.
You the one bringing that shit in. Supposed to be protecting us, instead you trying to wipe us out. It's what the white man has wanted for centuries.
Is that what I am? A man? White oppressor?
Telling me I'm wrong?
I'm a person. I'm not the system that you hate.
It's easy from Teddy's perspective to see why he did no wrong. It wasn't his goal at all to ruin the lives of the poor black communities. He just needed to raise money to impress his superiors, and it was just an immoral way to do so. He is aware of that but doesn't realize the privileged position he's in and the damage he's caused to the community to serve his master's own purpose. The CIA are a terrible organization, and Teddy is just an extension of them, and after being outed, he's become the face. Due to Franklin and Franklin's mother Sissy's intervention, Teddy doesn't kill Alton and instead lets them flee to Cuba, essentially in exile. But we know that Teddy, as broken as he is with a dead brother and fired from his dream career, was not going to let what Alton did slide. Actions have consequences with Teddy.
Sissy. I really thought this was the beginning of something. I hope that before you meet your end, you take a look around you. Try to understand your place in this world.
Months go by, and despite being fired, Teddy was not done with the CIA. He'd kept in touch with Avi and used him to gain intel on a situation going on with Iran that would have been of the CIA's interest. He then presents this intel to Stephen Havermeyer, who was the new CIA contact, as a bargaining chip to get a foot back into continuing the help for Nicaragua.
There's a win in the PR war, soon they're going to be winning the actual war too.
I don't think it's as dire as you're making it sound.
Really? Every contact I have, every single one tells me that the flow of arms to Nicaragua has slowed. What is happening in Los Angeles?
Well, what was happening in LA was Teddy's replacement Grady Williamson had taken Teddy's place in supplying the cocaine to Franklin and Gustavo, but he was more lenient. He didn't actually care much for Nicaragua, but was just partying and enjoying the life of a drug supplier. So Teddy went to inspect him.
So how is it?
It's not good. Grady is a mess. He's also in a relationship with one of his people.
Get Grady in line, but do it quietly.
And just like that, Teddy is given a chance. He isn't back in the CIA, but he's hired by Havermeyer as a contractor to help fix the problems in Nicaragua. However, he still needed to get Grady out of there. But Grady manages to see who Teddy is straight away.
You know, all the God and country guys that I come across, they're looking for something else to fill. They want to be important. They want to feel like they matter. They want to feel like they're not a joke. Well, hold on. Let me guess. Your wife left you. She's off some other guy. Your kids, they don't want to talk to you because you're a idiot. And your parents, I'm guessing that they probably kicked you around so much as a little pup that you started to believe that you didn't matter, that you weren't worth a shit. Am I close?
Grady is right about everything, even about Julia, who Teddy found out while spying on her that she had found someone else. He'd hit the nail on the head about Teddy's relationship with his dad contributing him to wanting to feel important to someone and that he's worth something. But these words obviously hurt Teddy, and Grady refused to leave. So now being accustomed to taking lives, Teddy poisons him.
Should have taken the out. Your waste cost countless lives.
With Grady out the way, Teddy resumes business with Franklin and Gustavo, but it isn't long after rekindling that Teddy is shot. And in looking for a discreet way to get patched up, he runs into an old associate, a moment that would also change things for his future.
Thomas, what a surprise.
Parissa recognizes Teddy as Thomas from his operation in Tehran a few years prior, which, as mentioned for some undisclosed reason, Teddy messed up badly. At the time he was married and under the alias Thomas Parker, but apparently the two had caught the eye of one another, and now fate had brought them back together in healing Teddy's wound.
Why don't we have some fun?
Rip my stitches.
I'll sew them back together.
With his last relationship completely derailed due to Teddy's focus on the mission, he now had a second chance at finding love. Remember, with Teddy's loss of his mum, wife and brother, and a pretty non-existent relationship with his dad, he craves a sense of belonging, and along with the CIA, Parissa provides another opportunity. But seemingly upon the return of his relationship with Franklin, things seem to be spiraling downward. At first it starts with Teddy's blatant lies about the fate of Franklin's dad.
I understand how hard this must be. You spend all this time hating him, and then you form a relationship with him again. And in this, Franklin, I swear to you, whatever happened to your father, I had nothing to do with it.
His ability to lie pathologically, and more important, Franklin's ability to let the deception prevail, would lead to the evil Teddy would rain down on him.
I got my money. Got my lady, got a baby on the way. And I'm doing my patriotic duty and some, you know that. So I'm out.
What do you need from me to move as quickly as possible?
Bank account numbers, passwords, records of previous wire transfers, and all forms of identity confirmation.
And if I can get all that for you?
Then I only need 24 hours to make all the necessary transfers and route everything to untraceable accounts.
My money. It's all gone. Caymans, Panama, Iranian bank in LA, everything gone. How much? How much did they get?
$73 million.
As of this morning, I am in possession of over $70 million in seized cash assets. 73 to be exact.
Listen to me, you cracker motherfucker. Listen to me, okay? If I don't have that money in 24 hours, I promise to God that I will devote every second I have on this green earth to making sure you and everybody you care about suffers.
Think you've lost everything? Just wait.
What had just entailed? In what was seemingly a business partnership with a genuine connection between the two parties, Teddy had completely stabbed Franklin in the back. All $73 million Franklin had accumulated from his years of being a drug kingpin had been wiped from his account, and Teddy now had a bargaining chip to get back in the CIA's good books.
Sounds like you're willing to make a very generous donation to your former employer. Yes, I am.
Remember, Teddy had only been brought back as a contractor by the CIA, not given his job back, but by seizing Franklin's money and then giving it to the CIA to use to support other missions, he was bound to get his career back.
Is there any word from the higher-ups? About the money, I ask.
There's significant interest in the assets in your possession.
Let's get this all cleared up. Then we'll talk about getting you your blue badge back.
However, things get confusing when you find out Teddy could potentially be using his money for something other than the CIA.
Or you take the $70 million and leave the country.
Parissa, who had only recently become Teddy's lover, had put him in two minds. He could either go down the path of impressing the CIA with his contribution and getting his dream career back, or setting off into the sunset as a multi-millionaire with his new love, never having to work again. Being as patriotic as he likes to claim he is, it's a pretty hard decision. He isn't really materialistic and has more of an interest in feeling like he's valuable and worthy, proving his father wrong, and changing the course of history. But what would eventually transpire would change everything.
Yeah, my father.
He in the next room.
What's your plan here, buddy?
If I'm gonna give you cash or else you're gonna kill him, right? That's the play. Guess I can tell you right now.
Oh, it's not gonna work out for you.
My accounts are the same as when you took it. Call William. Tell him to transfer it all back. Do it now. And your pops gets to walk out of here like nothing happened.
You don't want to do this.
Wrong answer.
It is the most incompetent soldier ever.
What the fuck? What was that? Hey, Frank, the fuck did you just do?
You still want to talk to him? Talk to your pops.
Hey, Dad. Dad, can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't think he can hear you. Teddy.
The murdered his father?
Just cut his fucking throat. Teddy could hear him choking on his own blood.
Jesus.
Despite not having a close relationship with him, no one wants to hear their father get murdered over the phone so surprisingly, only hearing his last dying breaths after having his throat sliced. Teddy stole Franklin's money, but failed to understand what Franklin was willing to do to get his money back. And with a long-lost mother, a dead brother, and a strange son, and now a dead father, Teddy had very little to live for, and questioned whether it was all worth it.
There's just so few people on this planet who understand what it is we do, what it costs, and how hard it is to keep going when you know that inevitably you're going to end up all alone. And then you wonder if it was worth it. Or worse, you wonder why you did it all in the first place. What am I actually trying to live up to?
And what makes it harder is that Bobby Kim, the man in Costa Rica, forecasted all of this.
At first I was a patriot, and after that, there was innocent blood on my hands. And then finally, I was alone.
And being broken, just as Franklin proved, causes a man to go to dark depths. So Teddy plans to exact revenge.
Hey, what you need?
Franklin.
Why?
He murdered my father. So all you gotta do is point.
Hello.
Good news?
Took some doing, but I got him. He a little banged up, though.
As long as he's alive.
Franklin, it's over.
I can help you.
After successfully capturing Franklin, he makes the same lye and water solution he used to melt Lorena's body. and plans to give Franklin a lethal injection and disappear his body, leaving zero trace of the crime scene. But plot armor saves Franklin.
Where the fuck you been? Hey, he's a fucking traitor. Him and his whole fucking family, man.
At this point, everything Teddy worked for would now be affected. Franklin now had Teddy hostage, and he wanted his money.
The banks open up in the morning. I'm gonna let you sit there until then. Think about your life, whether or not you want it to continue. And either you'll pick up the phone and make the transfers and live, or you won't. And I'll blow your brains all over that wall.
Now, at this point, Teddy's motive is distorted. He had to decide between the CIA and Parissa, and he chose the latter.
I keep looking around my life, and I got no one. The one bright spot in all of it is you. What do you want? You want to leave? I'm done giving up things for them.
So he had $73 million, and he wasn't giving it to the CIA because he no longer cared for a career with them after losing everyone because of it, and instead he wanted to disappear with Parissa, essentially starting a new life. But he's now captured by the same man he robbed, who's demanding his money back, and even with the prospect of torture and death, he still doesn't give the money.
Please don't do this. Please.
You're making me do this.
And I just kept thinking, why won't he budge? But then by what he says next, you realize the narcissism within Teddy. The power he feels knowing he took it all from Franklin, and he's afraid of losing that power, that last bit of power. And Franklin sees right through his patriotic facade.
Why did you take my money?
It's not your money! It's my cocaine, and it's my operation. Everything you have is because I allowed you to have it. And if I look around one day and I decided that those funds could be better spent trying to preserve our way of life, and you are goddamn right that's what's gonna happen.
Don't give me any more bullshit about God and country and larger sacrifices. No, the fact that you cleaned me out and took it all from me means this shit is all about you. You took it all away from me. You cleaned me out because you wanted me to know who was in charge. You wanted me to feel like nothing, right? Because you're the hero in your own story.
Teddy loved the control. Once he got that feeling, he never wanted to let it go. He even stated his control issues years prior.
I have what some people might call control issues.
But his lust for control had led to so much destruction and lives lost, all under the false cover of patriotic duty. Feeling defeated and realizing he still has Parissa and a son to live for, they agreed to split the money, $37 million each. Franklin would hand Teddy back over to Havermeyer in a public place right after Teddy transfers the money, and all he had to do was hold his arrogant tongue for 30 seconds longer, and things would have gone smoothly. Back when he was being held hostage, he told Sissy that Alton was indeed alive.
Alton's not dead. I watched you leave your building that day. I went up the stairs. I found him alone. I drugged him. I took him down to a waiting car. I drove him to an airport, and I flew him to Puerto Rico, where I put him in a jail cell.
You're lying.
But I promise you, Alton's alive.
But during the handover, upon confrontation, Teddy reveals the truth in such a manner that cost him his life.
What prison? Please.
What?
Tell me what prison Alton is in.
I was lying. He's dead. I shot him twice. I dumped his body. Hey, Ann.